She stood frozen in the middle of the shopping mall. Not because she was afraid, but because of what she had just heard. "You people always think you can walk around like you own the place." The words weren't loud, but they were sharp, hissed through clenched teeth. The kind of words that don't echo across a hallway, but burn deep into your chest. She didn't flinch. She didn't blink. She just kept walking, head high, every step purposeful, as the man in the security uniform crossed his arms and shifted his stance like he owned the ground she walked on. Before we continue, if you're watching us for the first time, Elliot Stories welcomes you with a warm, firm hug and a seat at our truth-telling table. If you love real stories with heart, suspense, and unexpected turns, hit that subscribe button now, drop a like, and let us know the city you're watching us from in the comments. Share this with someone who needs a reminder that silence isn't always weakness. Now, let's continue. There's something unsettling about people who wear uniforms but forget who they're supposed to protect. The tension in the air wasn't new. She had walked through enough rooms where people made assumptions before they made eye contact. But today felt different. Not because she hadn't felt this kind of cold before, but because she wasn't just any woman. Not today. She had come to the mall on a mission. Not for clothes, or coffee, or casual browsing. She was tracking something. Or rather, someone. And she had done this kind of work before, more times than anyone in this mall could guess. She looked like any other woman, athletic, confident, distracted maybe. But that was the brilliance of her cover. A mother with 2 toddlers looked over at her, then glanced nervously at the security officer leaning against the wall. You could see it in her eyes. That uncomfortable, silent question, is something about to go wrong? No one knew what was happening yet, but energy doesn't lie. And the tension was real. It all began 15 minutes before she stepped into the corridor. Back in the parking lot, she had seen the man. He wasn't just a security guard, he had been listed in a quiet report, flagged for aggressive behavior toward black teens and dismissed complaints that mysteriously disappeared. She knew this because she had read the case file. And not just read it. She had memorized it. Names. Times. Patterns. He wasn't expecting her. And that's exactly how she planned it. She had reported in under a fake name that morning. Civilian mode. Hair straight, no badge, no backup. But her instincts, those couldn't be turned off. And right now, they were screaming. From the corner of her eye, she saw a teenager, maybe 14, being questioned by another guard near the Apple store. His hoodie was oversized. His sneakers were scuffed. His hands were in his pockets. But his shoulders, shrinking. She knew that body language too well. That "I didn't do anything but I already feel guilty" posture. She turned back toward the hallway and kept walking. The first confrontation came at the escalator. The same guard who had hissed at her earlier suddenly stepped in front of her. "Excuse me, he said flatly. "You're not allowed beyond this point without proper store clearance." She paused. "Store clearance?" she asked, her voice calm, but with a quiet heat rising beneath. "Restricted area for staff and management only," he added, shifting on his heels like a man trying to assert power he hadn't earned. "There's no signage here," she replied. "And no store in this direction. Just a hallway." He didn't respond. And that's when it hit her. This wasn't just about him doing his job. It was about her. He was testing her. Probing her like he had done to others. Seeing how far he could push before someone pushed back. But he didn't know who he was dealing with. She smiled. That kind of smile that looks sweet but says, "I've been here before, and I'm not scared of you." Another shopper stopped walking. Then another. It was subtle at first. Just a shift in the rhythm of the crowd. She looked him dead in the eyes. "Step aside." His jaw clenched. And something in his eyes twitched. No. That was it. The sound of a phone clattering to the ground broke the tension. A young man nearby had pulled out his phone to record, but his hand had slipped. The moment had cracked something invisible. She reached into her back pocket, not for a weapon, but for her identification. Slow. Intentional. She flashed it. Federal. Undercover. "Step aside, or you're going to need your lawyer in 5 minutes." Silence. Real silence. Even the escalator felt like it had slowed down. The guard took a step back. But not out of respect. Out of calculation. And just like that, 3 more guards appeared. Her eyes scanned them like radar. One was nervous. One was posturing. One had his hand too close to his belt. She knew what this looked like from the outside. A mall incident. But she also knew what this really was. A test of restraint. Because if she reacted the way they wanted her to, this could turn into a headline. And not the kind she deserved. The teenager in the hoodie was now slowly backing into the crowd. Good. He was safe. But she wasn't finished yet. She turned back to the first guard, still holding her ID. You've been reported 3 times. Your name is in a file sitting on a desk in DC. You think nobody's watching because they didn't act the first time. But that's the thing with silence, it doesn't mean ignorance. Sometimes, silence is just the storm waiting to hit. His face drained. And that's when she stepped closer. In the next part of this story, you'll find out what she uncovered about the security team, the hidden camera footage that changed everything, and the moment the truth went viral, but not for the reasons anyone expected. Until then, here's what we want to hear from you. Have you ever witnessed quiet courage in public? When someone stood up, not by shouting, but by simply refusing to shrink? Drop it in the comments. Like, share, and make sure you subscribe, because what comes next is going to make you feel everything. And remember, sometimes, the real strength isn't loud. It's calm, steady, unbothered, watching everything. The mall didn't return to normal after that. It couldn't. Because when truth walks into a room, it doesn't always speak. Sometimes, it just stands there, unmoving, unflinching, and forces every lie to adjust itself or run. That's what she had become. The woman in blue shorts. The woman who wasn't supposed to be anything more than a civilian, but who had quietly pulled the thread that unraveled a system. Within 30 minutes of the confrontation, 2 plainclothes officers entered the mall from the East Wing. They weren't called by security. No sirens. No radios. They were there because she had planned it that way. What no one knew was this: she hadn't come alone. Weeks earlier, she had been assigned to investigate internal complaints that were quietly stacking up in that exact mall. Young people of color being harassed. Women being followed by guards. And footage that had a way of disappearing before legal teams could reach it. She wasn't just gathering information. She was the storm. As the 2 officers approached, she simply gave a nod. That was the signal. The teenager in the hoodie was already being escorted to safety, away from the heat. Away from the eyes. And then, it began. One by one, the guards were pulled into the back offices. Not aggressively. Not with handcuffs or threats. But with questions. Firm. Legal. Recorded. She stood by the vending machines, arms crossed, watching from a distance. The very space they tried to block her from. Now she owned it with her silence. But here's the twist no one expected. One of the guards broke. And he told everything. There's a group chat, he admitted. We joke about the runners, the teens who look like trouble. We bet on which ones will run if we confront them. She didn't blink. He continued. There are fake reports. Sometimes we write them to justify detaining someone. Just because. His voice cracked on the last word. Just because. 2 days later, security footage from the past 3 months was recovered from a backup server the mall management forgot existed. It showed patterns. Timelines. Repeated targeting. But it wasn't just the guards. A supervisor had ordered some of it. Told them to keep the store clean. Not of dirt, but of undesirables. And when media caught wind of what was found, that's when it really exploded. Because the story wasn't just about one woman confronting racism. It was about the traps so many fall into, believing power makes you untouchable. Her photo, taken just as she stood firm with her ID in one hand, went viral. But what caught fire even more? The full bodycam footage she released voluntarily. In it, you see her remain calm. You see her breathing deeply. You see her choose words over reaction. That video was viewed over 18 million times in 5 days. But here's the part you didn't hear. She didn't want credit. She declined interviews. She didn't want to be a symbol. Because for her, this wasn't about going viral, this was about stopping the cycle. And she did. 4 guards were dismissed. A mall-wide training program on racial bias was launched. The head of security resigned under pressure. But for her, the biggest victory was simpler. The teenager. The one in the hoodie. His mom sent a message. All he said was, "Mom, I felt seen for the first time. That's because of you." That broke her. She sat in her car, alone in the parking lot, and cried. Not because she was weak, but because when you're trained to stay undercover, it's rare you get to feel the impact you make. But this time, she did. And it mattered. Now, here's what this story teaches us. Sometimes justice isn't loud. It's methodical, strategic, patient. It doesn't always wear a cape. Sometimes, it wears sneakers and a quiet stare. The moral: never underestimate the power of stillness backed by strength. True authority doesn't need to raise its voice. It just knows who it is, and walks like it. Let this be a reminder to every viewer. You don't have to shout to be powerful. You don't have to swing first to win. And you definitely don't need permission to stand in your truth. You just need courage. Not the kind they write about in movies. The kind that shows up in real life, at 2 p.m., in the middle of a mall. When no one claps, but everyone watches. And now, from us at Elliot Stories. If this story made you feel something, let us know in the comments. Was it the twist? The tension? The silent power? Tell us what hit you hardest. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to know their presence alone can shift a room. And subscribe, because we tell real stories, for real people, who carry real courage. We'll end with this encouragement. Sometimes your greatest power isn't what you say. It's what you refuse to let break you. This is Elliot Stories. Keep standing tall, even when the world leans heavy. Until next time.